So here with us now is Rachel Gardner, and Rachel runs the Romance Academy, which is a mentoring programme that looks at sex and relationships and things like that. Hi Rachel, it's great to have you with us.
Oh, it's good to be with you in your little tent. Lovely.
It's great, isn't it? Do you like it?
Yeah, I do. Where are the sausages and the bacon?
Couldn't quite go that far, I'm afraid. We can manage the Barbie, but not that much.
Not that much.
Rachel, let's talk about sexting and apps like Snapchat and things like that, which seems like a strange concept. You take a picture of yourself, send it to someone, and then 3 seconds or 10 seconds later it's deleted.
Yeah. It's crazy. I have to say that I don't use it. I've recently discovered Twitter. I don't Instagram myself at all. But no, it's interesting, isn't it? I think it's really interesting how technology is used as well. We've been doing seminars at Soul Survivor this week about sex, and we put up on the screen lots of different sexual positions or types of activity like holding hands, kissing, cuddling, oral sex. And we also put up things like Snapchat or sending a naked photo of yourself or that kind of thing. And we asked people to talk about what they felt would be okay and what wouldn't be okay. And interestingly, lots of Christian young people think that actually lots of sexual activity is kind of okay, bar sexual intercourse. But all the kind of technology stuff, no, not at all. And that really interested me, actually, because I thought that maybe the technology allows you to be a bit distant from the scenario, and maybe they'd be thinking, oh, that's okay. But actually stuff you do with somebody, that's not okay. So it is interesting, isn't it? Sort of the questions it raises, Yeah,
and kind of you talk a lot around the subject of kind of sex and relationships, and how big a problem is underage sex and abortion and teen pregnancy within the church itself?
Well, I would say that any time people are engaging in sexual activity outside of God's plan, which is one man, one woman for life, I think we're going to see stuff, consequences that are potentially quite damaging. So I would say it's not that I've got a problem with underage sex or that kind of stuff. It's more that I think it's sad that often as church, who God asks us to be living radically different and not to be perfect. We're not, God knows we're not perfect. We're human beings. We mess up. But I think it's quite sad often that I know in my own life I mess up sexually. I kind of entertain lustful thoughts and kind of feed them a bit, and I think that's quite sad often that as the Christian community who should be able to talk about this stuff more and should be able to be real about it and should be able to say, actually, I don't want to be doing that anymore. I want to do things differently. Often there's this kind of covering of shame and secrecy, and we struggle just as much as anybody else. But really, we should be able to talk about this stuff, shouldn't we? We know the person to talk to about this who loves us as we are. So I get heartbroken that we could be being more honest and we're often not.
So what advice would you give, say, to youth groups who are maybe struggling to talk about these taboo subjects?
Yeah, well, there's not any easy thing I suppose I'd say just talk, just open your mouth and start talking. And we're going to feel embarrassed because we're not talking about gardening, we're not talking about how to cook bacon, we're talking about something personal, so we're going to feel embarrassed and it's going to feel awkward, but I think that's okay actually, because it means we're going to be more sensitive to each other and more sensitive about the topic. I think probably youth workers like me, I talk about sex quite a lot. So the danger is sometimes I come into my youth group and go, right, mutual masturbation, let's have a chat. And the young people are like, I don't want to talk about that with you. So I think I need to learn sometimes to be a bit more sensitive with my young people. So if you are a youth worker who actually is a bit, I don't know if I want to talk about this, then that's probably quite a good thing. And start there. Start by saying, I think we need to talk about sexting. I don't know how we're going to do this. I'm feeling like embarrassed already, so how are we going to do this? And I think young people then respond really well to that, actually. So let's not be silent. Let's talk. Let's have the conversation.
Yeah, and to kind of go on from that then, so kind of talking around issues that sometimes you may find difficult to talk about, what kind of advice would you give to young people who are maybe struggling with feelings of homosexuality?
Yes. Well, we've just been talking about that, actually, in the seminar, and we've just been interviewing some wonderful gay Christians who are choosing to live for Jesus. And they're choosing that really radical path of saying, actually, I'm going to choose singleness, and this is a long journey. So I think we need to be a lot kinder in the Christian community. We need to listen to each other a lot more. We need to recognise that particularly our friends in the Christian community who have same-sex attraction, who call themselves gay, whatever we might think about that we actually listen and we allow God to speak to us through them. And I know, as a straight Christian who's married, that actually I'm challenged more to live radically for Jesus by the lifestyle of my single Christian friends, some of whom are gay, some of whom aren't, who are being really radical in today's culture and saying, actually being in a relationship, I would love that, but it's not the be-all and end-all. And I think they're admirable. And I would love in the church that we allow our friends who are gay, who do have a different lifestyle to us, to speak more and to challenge us more.
So Jesus talked a bit about how if we judge, then we will be judged. But why do you think we find it so difficult in the church to love people who are making mistakes or in the world's eyes screwing up a little bit? Because surely church should be the place where you should feel least judged.
Lizzie, that's a brilliant question. I can only speak for myself. The times that I judge other Christians are the times when I'm feeling really guilty about sin in my life, and I'm doing quite a good job of hiding it. So when they're not doing a very good job of hiding it, I feel a bit outed by them, and I'm like, whoa, hang on a minute. So I think it's when I start being the older brother rather than the prodigal son, when I forget how much God's reckless grace has transformed my life, then I forget how much it can transform someone else's life. I think also I can't change myself, so why do I think I can start changing somebody else? The only one that can change me is God's Spirit. God can change me. And he does it lovingly, you know? He does it kindly. He doesn't do it by kicking me out of the family or barring me from church. He does it by saying, Rachel, there's something in your life that I think is damaging you right now, and I want you to be free from that. So whether it's masturbation or pornography or any stuff, actually only Jesus can transform us and release us from that. I know plenty of churches that actually are choosing the really brave step of saying, we are a messy community because we are who we are, and actually all of us are followers of Jesus together. And sometimes it's going to look easy and sometimes we're going to disagree, but do you know what? That actually is okay. So for some of these young people today, they were listening to Christians who call themselves gay. Now that might be the biggest barrier for them. Can you be gay and a Christian? And the Bible talks a lot, well, about 7 times about homosexual practice. Never talks about orientation. I don't think being gay is a sin. I think it's actually the lifestyle that we choose is what is honouring or dishonouring to God. And that's going to be challenging, even for some people listening to me today. Can you be a Christian and hold that view? So we've got a lot of thinking to do, haven't we, as a church? But what I love the most is encouraging Christian young people to run towards Jesus, not run away from him. Bring anything to him, and he's the one that can sort us out, isn't he?
And that kind of ties in quite nicely with kind of a theme we're looking at in this series, which is how do we stay the course? When things get hard, how do we stay? And have you got any advice you give people who may be struggling along that?
Yeah, well, I look to characters like Peter in the Bible, who he messed up a lot, and he stayed the course. And I think what I see in Peter's life is that he had experiences like the one where he was sinking under the water and Jesus grabbed hold of him. Do you remember that? Mm. And when he was sinking under the waves, Jesus didn't go, be a better Christian, hold the course, stop doubting. He just grabbed him. And I think in those moments where we just feel, I'm going to let go, Jesus, those are the times where we need to say to ourselves, but actually, as I'm doing this, Jesus is going, I've got you, I've got you, I've got you, I'm holding tighter. And so I think it is about us choosing to live for Jesus. It is about us getting stuck into God's word and knowing what it means to hold the course, but it is also sometimes about leaning back and going, God's everlasting arms are around me, I'm going to be okay. So it's a kind of, we do this with God, don't we? We don't hold the course and then meet him at the end. As we're holding the course, God is his grip on us getting tighter and tighter and tighter too, and that's just amazing.
So Rachel, just one big question. Yeah. What is the best example of God's love that you've seen? Gosh,
I've seen so many. And in really simple ways, like people who just love somebody unconditionally and don't make a big song and dance about it. So someone who cares for a sick relative for a long time, that kind of thing. I just think, but for me, a couple of years ago, I met at Spring Harvest an elderly couple with an elderly man in a wheelchair with lots of learning difficulties. And they'd come to a seminar that I was speaking on about love and relationships. And as we were waiting for others to turn up, I thought I'll ask this old couple a question. Do you know what? Being the younger person I was, I, in my mind, thought an older couple, I'll just talk to them about gardening or something. As I began to talk to them, God really challenged me, because this elderly couple, listened to their story. So basically, they were doctors in their day, and they worked with people who had severe mental health problems. And when the hospital decided that all these adults with mental health difficulties were going to be living back in the community, they realised this one man had no one to live with. And so 40 years ago, they said, come live with us. So this elderly couple, in their 60s or in their 50s, 60s, they said to this man, come live with us. And he has been with them every day for years and years and years and years. And I sat there and I thought, number one, I looked at you as an old couple and thought, what have you got to teach me? How arrogant. And number two, what have I got to teach you about relationships? You've opened your home to the most vulnerable man you know, and you've said, you're our family. And I think That to me is one of the best examples of God's love. They don't make a song and dance about it, they never talk about it on a platform, but every day they're demonstrating God's love. I hope that when I'm 80, I am a fraction of the radical lovers that they are to other people. I'd be over the moon with that.
Rachel, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.